Hi everyone, welcome back. In the last video we built the arm and also got a fair way into building the hand. We're now going to kind of finish the hand off and then connect everything together. So I'm going to start off by adding a little bit of curvature to the fingers. So I'm going to right click and select face mode, and I'm going to select the fingertips like this, and what I'm going to do is use the move tool, and I'm just going to move them down a little bit like this. Okay, and then what I'll do is hold down the shift key and tap the full stop key to expand the selection, and then I'll move these down as well, just a little bit like that. And then if you hold down shift and hit the comma key, you can then just grab the ends and rotate those, or move them down again a little bit, just to get a bit of curve to those fingers. Okay. Now if you want, you can expand your selection out again and just move them down a third time, just so that these knuckles here are a bit lower than the hand. Okay. So just having a little bit of curve in there is going to help with the deformation a little bit. Okay, now what you can do is select one of these edge loops like this, and we can rotate them a little bit just so that they're angled a bit more to the way that the fingers are curving. So if I grab the rotation tool and pop over to axis orientation and switch it to component, it will probably align reasonably closely to that edge loop. So from that point, what I can do is kind of angle this down a bit like that. If I double click the next one, you can see that that kind of aligns reasonably well, so I can angle that down. So all I need to do is sort of do that for each of these knuckles, and once again that's going to just make the kind of edges flow a little bit more naturally. Now you need to be careful when you're clicking that you actually are clicking on the handle and that it changes to yellow. Okay, if it doesn't, it means you're not actually clicking on the handle, and the rotation could be going all over the place and not really staying aligned with the object. So just keep that in mind. Now we can do the same thing over here. We can grab this thumb joint. Now this one's quite a bit different because it's on sort of this weird kind of 45-degree angle this way and 45-degree angle this way. There's really no proper direction that this can kind of rotate on. So I'm just going to press reset on the tool. And if I kind of position my screen so I'm looking directly down against these polygons, okay, I can use the yellow ring here because that's basically always sitting at 90 degrees to the screen. And that way it's going to rotate reasonably well. Okay, now I want to grab these vertices here. I can see where this is kind of bulging in, and I'm just going to pull those in a little bit just to help that bend. I can also take these ones here. I should actually take these probably and just pull these down a bit like this, and maybe even these end ones, and pull those forward a bit like this. Once again, I'm sort of looking down against these four polygons at like a 90-degree angle, and that means the yellow controller here is going to be pretty much keeping them in line when I move them. Okay, now over here on the fingers, what I want to do is grab edge mode, and I'm going to select the two edges at the bottom, and I want to kind of pull these down and back like this on all three fingers. So we'll just kind of pull those down and back. Same thing again over here. Pull them down and back. So you know, with something like this. And then what you want to do is grab the top ones and you want to pull them forward. So they're sort of more like this. So the top ones sort of end up over the top of here. Okay, and these two here can come out as well. So it ends up a bit more like this. So what that's going to do is sort of give the impression of sort of a fingernail area over the top of the rest of the finger. So we'll just kind of bring this forward. Okay. So you can see here you sort of end up with sort of this little fingertip with sort of like a nail area over the top. So slightly sharper. Okay, you can kind of see that result there. Okay, now over here what I want to do is basically get sort of a division through here. Okay, this, you can see this polygon is non-planar. It's kind of hooking around a corner here. So what I want to do is basically just split this down through the middle. So what I'm going to do is take this vertex here, I'm going to merge it to here. So let's grab, let's see, there we go, Mesh Tools, Target Weld. And I'm going to grab this vertex and drag it to this one. Okay, now it's not ideal. Technically speaking, you could possibly drag that one that way. And that should work okay. In fact, I think that's going to be better. So if I turn the tool off, you know, I can grab this vertex, for example, and just use the move tool and kind of pull this back a bit. And what that's doing is helping transition that crease sort of into the back of the hand. And we, you know, we can kind of pull this down a bit as well. I want to grab these 4 vertices here that eventually are going to be where the hand joins the wrist. I'm going to pull those back towards the wrist and start to round the back of this out a little bit. So I'll pull those back and then grab these and bring them in. Same thing over here. Grab these ones and kind of pull them back a bit. Missed one there. Just bring that back. Okay, something like that. I could probably take some of these edges, like this one here and this one here, and using the move tool just kind of push them in a bit so it's a bit more rounded here. And I could probably do the same up the top, so maybe grab these 2 at the back here and kind of push them in. This is sort of personal preference. You know, this is not going to stop your, if you don't do all of this, it's not necessarily going to stop your model from working or anything, but it's sort of just trying to generate nice polygon flows, nice polygon positions. If I grab these 3, for example, and pull them down, I start to get sort of that area at the back of the hand. I might grab some faces here, so I want to grab probably this one, and let's grab these 4 actually, and let's just pull those down. That's going to add a bit more kind of depth to that hand. I can grab these 2 vertices and pull them forward, for example, just to help smooth out that kind of transition. And I can pull this out like this, and then just bring these down. So you can see there I'm kind of building that kind of, that meaty bit of the hand, that sort of the heel of your thumb kind of section. So this is the heel of your palm just here. So we can sort of bring, you know, these vertices out to kind of mimic that kind of shape. So down here, okay, what we can do is sort of take this edge loop. If I double click this one like this, and if I use the slide edge command, so let's have a quick look. It's going to be under, there we go, Mesh Tools Slide Edge, just at the bottom. It says middle mouse drag, so if I click down the middle mouse button and then drag left or right, it'll adjust the position of this edge loop. So if I can bring this edge loop forward just a tad, like this, that's going to help kind of keep that shape. And what I can do here is sort of grab vertices in the middle and just use the move tool and just kind of pull them down a bit like this. So when it smooths out, it's going to be reasonably kind of flat like that. Now if you want knuckles on your fingers, you can grab these vertices here and just sort of pull them up a little bit like this. You wouldn't necessarily need to do this, but you know, some people would like to maybe have some slight knuckle bumps on there, like that. And then what we need to do is basically fix up this this little crease here. Okay, you can see on the front of the fingers it's actually pretty tight. So grabbing vertex mode, I'm just going to pull these up and back a bit. And these can actually serve as the knuckles as well. And all that's going to do is sort of help the bending. You can bring these up and back as well, as you know, just to help transition that in a little more. Like that. And these don't have to be that high. Yeah, be a bit more subtle with it. So that way the knuckles are going to kind of feed directly in. And over here it's the same thing, you know. Once we've got these edges in, we don't necessarily, we don't have to kind of keep them where they are. You know, we can kind of pull them down a little bit. And if you need to, you know, you can grab these vertices and just push them back a little bit, like that. And maybe even these ones, you know, just nudge them back a little bit. You don't want to push them back like that necessarily, but, you know, you can kind of knock them back a little bit like that. Okay, and these four, you know, well, not four, but, you know, this set here can kind of get lifted as well, just to add a little bit more depth to the hand. And these ones here can get shifted forward a bit. Okay, we don't want necessarily to have really long polygons and then really short polygons, so moving this forward might help a bit. And these ones here can kind of get shifted forward too, like that, as can these. Let's bring those forward a bit. Okay. So that's roughly all we'd need to do. You know, obviously you can keep adjusting as you see fit. You know, you don't have to have it exactly the way I've got it here, but this is just to give you a rough idea of, you know, where to get the geometry in for this hand. There's a whole bunch of different things you can kind of do in here to, you know, make adjustments. You know, you could spin this edge around so it goes from here to here, for example. You know, to give you an idea of how that works, if I select that edge there, and if I come up to edit mesh and hit spin, it will rotate it round like that. If I just select it and hit G, it'll do the same thing again. So you can start to get kind of that, you know, that heel shape in there. But as I said, you don't really need to do all of these things. It's a basic model, and the rig's going to be pretty basic as well. So we don't need to worry too much about everything being absolutely perfect. Okay, so something like that should be okay, I think. Alright, let's connect this up and move on. We'll leave this video once we've got it connected. So around the back here, these four polygons that are going to connect to the arm, I'm just going to select the vertices on either end and kind of pull them out like that, so that this is a little bit more rounded. I can grab these two here and kind of nudge them down a little bit, and grab that middle one and just pull that down slightly. Alright, so I'm going to grab face mode. I'm going to select these four, and in the exact same way as I did with the fingers, I'm going to extrude them. So we'll go edit mesh, extrude. I'm going to pull these out just a fraction, and then I'm going to offset them in. And it doesn't really matter how far you offset them, because what we're going to do is target weld them onto the arm. So once you've scaled them sort of down like that, just hit delete and get rid of them. And then what you can do is scale the arm, or scale the hand to the size that you want it. It's pretty important to do that now, because once we connect it to the arm, it's going to be really fiddly to do, because obviously if we scale the hand, it'll scale the arm and so on. Okay, so something along those lines I think will be fine for me. All right, and then what we're going to do is roughly move this into position pretty close to where it's going to join the arm. Don't forget to press F to center your object. So something like that should be fine. Then what I want to do is select the arm and delete the 4 polygons on the end. So right click face mode, click on these 4 polygons. It can be a bit fiddly to get in there sometimes. There we go. And delete those. Then select both objects in object mode and go to mesh combine. So now it's one selectable mesh, right? Now what we need to do is physically merge them together. So I'm going to right click and select vertex mode, like that. And starting off on the hand end, I'm going to merge the vertices from the hand to the wrist. So we can go mesh tools, target weld, make sure it's set to target, and find an edge. Normally I'll start with the middle top edge just here. So grab that vertex and drag it across to the wrist, and it will jump across and merge. And then just work your way around, finding each vertex and its corresponding partner on the wrist, and just merge them all to one another like this. There we go. So that's now physically all connected together. So if you press 3, that will smooth out, and you can see how that's all connected. Now, you can then go in and you can adjust the shapes if you need to. So for example, if I double click this edge and then grab the scale tool, I can, I'll just press reset to kind of make sure that's okay. I can then scale that up a little bit just so it transitions more nicely from the wrist onto the hand. Okay. And if you need to, you know, you can go in and start grabbing vertices and just kind of tweak, you know, continue to tweak the shape of the hand until you're happy, you know, with the way that the shape sits. You know, if there's any pointy bits, you know, just kind of pull them in and just make those adjustments as you see fit. Okay, don't forget to check it in smoothed out mode as well, just to make sure that there's no super spiky bits or weird twisted bits or anything like that. Okay, so something like that should be fine. Okay. So once you've done that, what we need to do is mirror this. So I'm going to select the hand like this. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to delete the history first. So we'll go Edit, Delete by Type History, like that, and that's going to remove all the input over here. Then what we'll do is go Mesh, Mirror Cut, and then set the translate for the mirror to 0 on the x-axis, like that. Select the model, go to Edit, Delete by Type, History. That disconnects the mirror. Then we can select the mirror and delete it, like that. Okay. To be on the safe side, what you'll want to do here is right click on the object and go down to Assign Material and assign your arm material, whatever that might be, and basically we are good to go. Okay, so in my case, I want the legs to be a bit longer because the arms are super long, much longer than what the legs appear to be. Okay, so this is, if you need to make adjustments, you can see here I'm going to make this adjustment. So I'm going to select the arms and the body, and I'm going to lift that up until, just by sort of eye, the distance between the bottom of the can and the bottom of the feet is about the same as what the shoulder to the fingers would be. So I'm keeping the limbs roughly about the same length. All right, now obviously now the legs are going to be completely out of whack because they're not connecting in anymore. So if I grab the pivot the pivot point for the legs here, I can connect them. I can grab the pivot point and move it down to the grid. So I'll hold down the D key and the X key at the same time. D lets me move the pivot, and X allows me to snap it to the grid. So if I grab the point here and drag it down to the middle of the grid, it'll stick there. And then I just release D and X, and that gets back to the move tool. I can switch over to scale, and it'll now scale from this position. Now, I want the legs to get taller, but I don't want them to get thicker or fatter. Okay, so if I use the trick I used earlier, which was the control key or command, and then grab this Y-axis handle, you can see that that's going to scale out side to side, right? What I want to do is I want to scale everything up first, like that, until the legs are kind of reconnecting. Okay, so they're just connected there. And then if I hold down the scale control and then use the Y-axis handle, I can kind of make them skinnier again. Okay. The feet are a little bit taller than they were before. And you can see the leg joints have kind of stretched a bit, but it's still approximately what I had before. So, you know, it sort of matches in with the thickness of the arms and so on. Now, if I want these feet to be thinner again, okay, proportionately they're okay for this, but if I did want those feet to be a bit thinner, what I can do is grab vertex mode, just select those vertices on both feet. Hold down D and X again, snap this back to the bottom of the grid, and then just grab the Y handle and just squeeze these down, just to flatten them out a bit. Okay. Likewise, I'll unsmooth this by pressing 1. If I grab the knee joints and I squeeze these down using the scale tool, okay, it starts to kind of get back to what it was before. Alright, and likewise, you know, I can grab these vertices in here and just use the move tool and just squeeze these back down so they're pretty close to the feet. Okay, so when you do scale them the way that I did, you will get kind of slight, it will make slight kind of changes to the character. Okay, you will get slightly different deformation, but you can kind of adjust it a little bit and it'll still end up the way that you had it originally. So there we go. Those are the arms and legs. So the only thing really you should do now is just make sure that everything is zeroed out and you've got no inputs. So you can see at the moment I've got a random number on the can, there's a random number on the arms, and there's also some random scale here. So just select everything and go modify, freeze transforms, freeze transformations, and then edit, delete by type, history. Okay, so that's now basically ready for rigging. Everything should be good to go. So when we do the rigging, we'll be rigging the body separately to the skeleton, and then we'll be rigging the arms and legs. We could probably do those separately as well. Okay, I'm going to leave this here. I will save this file as, I'll call this base. Just put base in whatever name you've got. Okay, there we go. That's it. The next stage of our project is to create a skeleton, so that's going to be coming up in further videos. So I'll see you then.